Michigan, Texas, 12 o'clock. Ain't a soul, it seems, thinks Michigan's got a shot in this ball game. Is that not how it strikes you?
Yeah, I don't think anybody does. The
What's
sports
ESPN got it
books,
now? They give them
I
26% chance of winning.
yeah, it's pretty bad. Got like a 10.5 spread or something like that. And money line's insane. I mean, people have wrote Michigan off, and it's like they've forgotten that last year they won the national championship. But at the same time, when they was gonna win the national championship, nobody thought they would do that either. So I mean, this team has been wrote off even last year,
Yeah.
before even this year. So I mean, this team is the biggest underdog story in college football.
And you know and that's I mean that's one of the reasons why I just like them. And I mean and I honestly I never like I guess pegged myself as a Michigan fan. But boy, I tell you, I mean, as time's going on, I mean, I like that team.
Yeah, they're
I,
the,
I
the
mean, I just like under.
the way
I
they
really got. I
play.
mean, the thing that really got me last year is that I know we dwelt on Michigan a lot, and there were a lot of people that that we got to encounter through this channel, just commenting back and forth. I got to know a lot of Michigan fans, and I like how they go about it. I mean, they're serious about their business, and we got exposed to a lot of people, and that was great. The thing though that I mean, I'm sure that the Michigan folks that we interacted with probably thought the same thing. It, Michigan Wolverines last year, they could have walked on water, saved people from burning buildings, and just been overall the greatest thing that ever hit. And everybody still hated. And still to this day, that's like today. I mean, I just cracked up whenever I looked on the channel. And I saw, my God, I mean, somebody's like, the reason that they beat Washington was because they were cheating. They knew every play before they ran. The reason they beat Washington is because Washington just didn't have the team to compete with that defense, and they didn't have the defense to stop that running game. Sorry. I mean, you can cry all you want, say they should be stripped. They were the best team in college football. They were better than your team. They simply were. And I'm not, knocking anybody. I'm just saying when you watch them, I mean, you and I and Rev watched them over and over, and it's like, God, man, they're good. God,
Yeah,
they're good. And people are like, no, they don't stand a chance. And like, quit writing this bunch off. I mean, quit writing them off. Now, this is a different year. They've lost a lot of people. Now, I will say some of the people probably that folks are up on might not be as big of a loss as it may seem. Um, I I think the offensive line is going to be hard to replace. They were doggone good. And they had, several upperclassmen, several graduate transfers on that offensive line that just flat knew how to block it. And they could block that duo scheme, and Mike Hart would just tear people up with it. Donovan Edwards, he had his, fair share too. Had a couple of good runs, was it, in that national championship game?
I think
Um,
3.
I look for him. I mean, I look for him to do better tomorrow. I really do. Because I mean, he's going to have a breakout, I think, for them to do well tomorrow and this year. I mean, I don't think he did much last week, or not to my expectations of what he should be doing, but we'll see. They returned some key figures on defense. That defensive line, what is it? 3 out of 4 are back. Kenneth
Yeah.
Grant, who I think is probably the best defensive tackle I've seen in a long time. I mean, he can affect a game like no other. Mason Graham, who also is a major player, probably going to, both of those easily in All American conversations this year. Defensive end, his name escapes. Is it Stewart? Is that
Yeah,
right?
Josiah Stewart.
That's right. And what last year did he have? Was it 5.5 sacks?
Yeah,
I think that's what he
that's
had, and I think he's
yeah.
got 2 already this year. So I mean, he's on his way to eclipsing that. And so I mean, and pass rush. I mean, you watch those games against the playoff game against Alabama. You watch the Ohio State game even, and then you watch the Washington game. One of the things that really gets overlooked about that team is that they flat out made quarterbacks uncomfortable. And they did it with a defensive line rush. It wasn't like that last year, one of the things that you stressed a lot is like, there's a difference between, blitzes and pressures. They seldom sent more than one linebacker. And very often it was a defensive line that were just, penetrating they held their gaps well. They drove the offensive line right into, like, especially like Jalen Miller, right into his lap, and they circled him up. And I mean, they literally surrounded him. And I mean, what could you do? And he played as well as he could have against them, but that rush kept Michigan in that game. I mean, you could honestly say that the defense probably won it for them. So I mean, I think that there's still enough pieces, and on top of that, people talk about the front. Will Johnson, I mean, he may well be the best cornerback in the country. I mean, if he's not, he's right up there with him. That's another piece, and I mean, he's going to. But the real question is going to be quarterback. And I know one of the points that you've made a lot, over this past year, and we didn't really say much about it. And I mean, I know a lot of people, who've told me the same thing. You were never really sold on JJ McCarthy as being a superstar quarterback. So do you think that? I mean, obviously, it's going to be a downgrade. But do you think that that's going to be as big of a hit given Michigan's tendency to control the ball and then throw play action to Loveland, the tight end, who's probably going to be an All-American tight end this year? Do you think it's going to be a killer, I guess, in this game?
I mean, in this game, no. Eventually, sure, but as long as he can, it's uh Davis Warren, who's their quarterback now, and I mean, as long as he can just control the ball and like play safe with the ball, as long as he doesn't put the ball in harm's way, that's like the biggest thing. Don't have turnovers, don't make stupid plays, because that will absolutely lose them this game. I think the thing with Michigan this game is they need to control the ball, control the clock to win this game. And how do you control the ball? How do you control the clock? Don't do stupid things. Keep the ball in your possession, run the ball for an extended amount of time, let that clock wither away. And if you're just throwing interceptions, you cannot do that. The ball's not in your hands. You got to put your defense out there, who's very good, but will eventually, wither away, especially with how explosive Texas's offense is and how much they will probably be passing the ball this weekend.
So with that, if we had to say that, like, the spot where we think that Michigan is on the shakiest ground, I think that the uncertainty at the quarterback position is definitely right up there with them. Now, Texas, on the other hand, they're pretty doggone certain, right? I mean, they're about as set at quarterback as I think a team can be. So, what do you think about Quinn Ewers, the Texas quarterback? I mean, do you think he's going to have a big day tomorrow?
I think Quinn is probably a top five quarterback in college football. But the thing about the being the top five quarterback in college football is there's not many that are that good, and the elite aren't as good as like per se with Joe Burrow being there. Like the elite aren't that elite in my opinion. I'm a big Georgia fan, but do I think Carson Beck is just a next level elite quarterback in college? No. I think he'll be a good system quarterback in the NFL. He processes right and does everything the right way. It's almost robotic, but Quinn is not like that. He's more of an explosive guy. He likes to air the ball out, but he puts the ball in bad situations and in bad locations where it shouldn't be sometimes. So with that, I think this game will rely a lot on Michigan's secondary. And with that being said, Michigan's secondary has three new faces in it this year, pretty much. I mean, um, two of the guys, played some last year, but not enough to actually matter that much. So I mean, you got Makari Page and Will Johnson out there trying to lead them, and that might be half of a field, but what's happening in the other half? So you got to really play that hand in hand if you're Michigan. You got to get pressure on the QB. If you don't have pressure on the QB, your DBs, especially the young ones or the more inexperienced ones, are going to get beat. And that's the thing. This game really relies on the trenches, both for Michigan to be able to run the ball and control the clock, and for them to be able to stop the run from Texas, which they shouldn't have that much of a problem with, but to also create pressure in order to help their pass defense, because we saw that a lot last year. You get some pressure on the QB, he's making stupid decisions. He's not being able to throw the ball. He's taking sacks. So I mean that's one of the things. It plays hand in hand, that pass defense and that your pass rush. So I think that's some key points for Michigan to come out here this weekend that they need to do.
The thing that I think is really going to be heavy in Texas's favor is they are explosive on offense. I think Michigan can run the ball on their defense. And I also think that Michigan is probably going to slow their run game down. I mean, I really do. And I know that, last week a lot of people are like, oh, well, they played Fresno State. Yeah, they did. Fresno State counting the bowl won 9 ball games last year. They're not a bad team. They ran the ball for 9 freaking yards against them. That's hard. This is run game down. It's going to put pressure on the quarterback and receivers to do something in the passing game. And like you said, maybe hide a few weaknesses this year, maybe hide some of that, inexperience in the secondary, and make him, like you said, make some, rush decisions. I think with that being said, to counter Texas's explosion on offense or explosiveness on offense, Michigan's going to have to come away with turnovers. I'm not going to say that they need to. They have to have turnovers to win this game. If Texas doesn't turn the ball over, I think they win this game and they probably win it pretty handily. But if Michigan can get them into a messy game, make them turn the ball over, their ball control, approach. Because I mean, Sharon Moore called the offense, and he won games, that a lot of people thought that they wouldn't win last year. I don't think this one can be any different. I mean, I think that there's a really good shot Michigan comes out on top in this one, but I think that there are some weaknesses they're going to have that they didn't have last year. But now, my thought also with Texas is, and this is something I think we haven't mentioned yet, they gave up nearly 4 yards of carry to Colorado State. Now they beat Colorado State's eyes out. What was it, 50-18?
That was something
But
bad.
that's a lot of rushing yards to give up. It really is. And I mean, I understand the same thing could be said. It's like, well, it's whatever. It's Colorado State. Wasn't that important? That's a lot of running to give up. And I think that if Colorado State can muster that much on the ground, I have to think that Michigan can muster more. And so, with that being said, if Michigan can win the turnover battle, and if we see them coming away with anything over 4.5 yards per carry, I don't think that it's just close. I think Michigan wins the ball game, and that may put me, in that slim percentage of people who thinks this is possible. But I think there are a lot of things like that that could play in Michigan's favor. And and my money says, having lived the life, and of course not at the college level, I can tell you right now that if you tell me, hey, you can be explosive or you can run the ball for over 4 yards a carry every play, I'm probably going to take 4 yards a carry every play because you're probably going to win football games and you're probably going to control the clock, especially if you have a defense. So, with that being said, I don't know if it's quite, it's quite that 74-26 split, Texas 74 percent chance to win it to Michigan's 26. I think there are a lot of circumstances that can flip around pretty quick, and I keep on going back to Michigan has been in this spot before. I could see this being a game that could really play in their favor.
Yeah, I think in my opinion, I think Michigan does what they need to do to win this game. More so than Texas. I'll put my trust in Michigan's defense more than I would into Texas's offense. Not saying that Quinn isn't a great quarterback, or that they don't have elite receivers. It's just I think that pass rush is going to be too much on their offensive line. And on defense, with them running that 3-man front, I just do not think it'll be enough to do anything to that Michigan run game, especially with Donovan Edwards back and Kalel Mulligan's the senior backup running back who would be a starter on most teams in college right now. So I mean, you really got to look at it from a realistic standpoint, and that is styles makes fights, and this game is a prime example of that, and you'll see that Saturday because Michigan is locked and loaded, aimed on the target, ready to absolutely destroy Texas, and it's just not being seen.
I'm with you. I mean, it is not going to surprise me at all if Michigan wins this ball game. Lots of people ruling them out, and like I say, they've been there before. I think that Texas is in a different position than where they were last year. I mean, I think they're a good team. I think that they're going to be in it deep. I really do. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they look like, in kind of in the front runners position. It's going to be interesting to see, just how this thing plays out because I think Michigan is going to be maybe more of a test than what they might want early on. People might think we're crazy, but I'm with you. I think that Michigan somehow manages to make it ugly, and I think that they come out with a close win. A lot of things got to go their way, but I mean, I've got confidence in them, and we'll see.